we're back today with a different project. This is a project for a friend whose name is Mary, and it's anticipation of Christmas. And I want to introduce you to somebody who's very precious to Mary. This is the treetop Christmas angel that has been on top of her family's Christmas tree, I think since she was a little girl, okay? She has very firm cardboard tube underneath that goes on top of the Christmas tree. The body, she has both of her hands and she has her face, which is a little bit cracked. I'll show you that in a different photograph. And then there's a post in the bottom of her body, of her torso, that this tube slips right onto. So it's really a clever design. But the dress that she's in is plastic and very stained and rather damaged. Especially in the bodice. It's really missing a spot there, and it's just in kind of bad shape. It's very raggedy. On the sleeves, it's just stapled onto her wooden torso. She's missing a lot of hair, and she looks kind of rough, but Mary would love to have her be pretty again. So Mary bought some fabric, which I'll show you in a second, and a little bit of trim, and she brought her to me and said, "Can you please make my angel beautiful again?" And I told her, I'll try, because I suppose maybe she doesn't sew, and I sew a little bit, and I'm willing to give it a go. She can hardly look worse than she does. I do have some creamy white roving. I'm not going to remove the hair she has, but I'm going to add to it to cover up these bald spots and give her fuller hair, and then I'll put a new band on. And I am going to leave, I think if I can, leave the skirt on underneath the new skirt, kind of leave her provenance there. I'm going to remove the torso plastic though, because it would get in the way and make it difficult to work. So let me show you what I've done so far. So this is the fabric that Mary bought at a fabric store in town, and it's I think kind of a pseudo silk or satin of some type, and it's nice and sturdy, which is good. And this is an interesting tale. It's a bit of a saga. She bought this trim, and it's a beautiful little rhinestone, and it was supposed to be attached to this bias tape, okay? But it was really coming loose. You can see it's just in bad shape, and it doesn't take much to take it right off of there. And I went back to the fabric store with Mary's receipt, and I said, "Listen, my friend bought this, and I pulled it out of the bag, and I really cannot sew this bias tape onto the hem of this angel's dress. As it is, it's already coming off." And the lady said, "Well, it's designed to be used either way. You can use it on the bias tape, or you can take it off the bias tape. But of course, if you do this, I can't sew this on my machine. I can sew the bias tape on my machine, but I can't sew this on my machine." After looking at the rest of the card of this same trim, I realized it's all going to do this in time. And so I decided to just stick with this, and I'm going to take it off this bias tape. I'm going to remove it so that it will all be just like that, which is better, okay? And then the lady, in compassion to my plight, gave me this twill tape. This is called twill tape, and it's sturdier. Bias tape is really on the bias. It has a raw edge. It's not anything you want showing. I would have had it pretty much concealed behind the hem fabric. But this twill tape is nicer, sturdier. It's finished on both sides, and it's just about the right width. If I put this on here, if I can attach that to the twill tape right in the middle, or even on the edge, that would look good. I'll have to do it all by hand though, which is fine. I don't mind doing this. I have till Christmas, and it would be nice handwork to do. So here is Angela, our little angel, and she's in kind of rough shape. I did measure out my fabric in a nice big circle here so that I can fit it to her body well. It's going to be a little bit longer than her skirt, and I did all these measurements from her waist to the hem edge that I want. And then I added a 1/2 inch seam allowance, a 1/4 inch for each end. So here and there. And I've done that all the way around. This spot right here is what is the center of that post. And you can see I'm going to have a small circle here. So I'll cut all this out, and I'll also cut, have one slit in the back that I'll reattach later. I like to have a dress that can be removed and cleaned if need be, instead of one that's glued to her body. And so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut off all of this and examine her, see what kind of stage she's in. Looks like she's got some cracking on her body. I want to make sure that we don't make that any worse. And then we'll get started, and you can come along on this little project. Well, now we're back with Angela in her more simplified form. I took off all of her dress and the bands. I found out that her hair was really held in place by the glue of the band. So I had to put a rubber band around her head. Now she looks more like a little Indian girl. Her dress came off, not with too much difficulty. I was not very surprised, though, to find out that her arms have long since come off. They were only held in place by the dress itself, by the plastic. The plastic was like all sticky on the underside, and so they kind of held it in place. But they're not movable arms, really. They don't seem to be intended to be. There was a band running between the two arms. With this, which I guess at one time must have been a rubber band, but it is just as hard candy. So we've thrown out a lot of those things. So probably what I'll do with her arms is just I will super glue them in place. But I need to make sure I do that. I need to make sure that her dress will go on and off. So we're going to have to figure that one out because they won't be able to move. I have tried before with old dolls of my own to insert new rubber bands inside the body, and I know how incredibly hard that is. It has to be exactly the right length and strength, or else the arms just flop around. And I don't think that my friend Mary cares whether the arms move or not, because they haven't moved in I don't know how long. So there's Angela. And there's her dress. I'm still debating if I want to put this skirt underneath the new skirt, because as I was cutting, I realized before I cut that this was 2 thicknesses of fabric instead of 1, and I thought, well, why not make the skirt 2 thicknesses? That makes good sense. So I've cut this out, and it may look like a very unorthodox sewing project. I think it does. The diameter, the circumference here is actually larger. I've left a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut all the way around the edge, 1/4 inch, and up here on one side and around here, and probably part way, leave a nice big opening, and then I'll turn it right side out. Before I'll do that, I'll cut some slits so that this will open up like I want. And then it should fit on her body, and I'll have a little opening to help it fit, and I can finish off that last seam by hand. And then we'll have the skirt. And I may make it so that the bodice and the skirt attach to each other with a snap, or I may hand stitch the bodice to the skirt in some way. But I want to go ahead and get the skirt in order and get it around her tummy. She's got a little fat tummy because she's a cute little angel girl. She does have a little bit of damage and cracking, you can see, to her body. They stapled the plastic straight into this, which fascinates me. I think it is wood with some kind of a paint. It's not ceramic exactly. It's very interesting. And there is a stamp on the back. It says USA. I'm not sure what the word says right there. We should try to find that out before we put a new dress on her. All right, so Angela is looking worse before she looks better. So I've done a little sewing on the skirt. I did the sewing on that very old sewing machine over there. That's my grandmother's sewing machine in its case, and she bought that around the time I was born. So it's well over 50 years old, but it still works well. I keep it lubricated and oiled. So now let's look at our skirt. Now I readily admit that this may be more skirt than I want, but I think more with an angel is better than too little. Now before I start doing this, you want to make some adjustments so that things will turn well. And see how it goes. Here's the little hole I left open so I could turn the skirt. So it'll be a double thickness, and then this takes care of all my raw edges because they're all finished at this point after I hand stitch this. Almost looks like parachute fabric or something. I don't know what it is, but it does have a nice shine to it. Mary told the lady at the sewing store she really wanted something gold, and the lady said, no, it's an angel. She has to be white. I don't think this is a fabric that would take well to being ironed. I could give a test run on some of the extra fabric that she bought and see if I can do it, if I can iron it underneath a towel maybe. Just give it a little bit, because you do want some crisp edges on this skirt. Boy, I wonder if this is going to work. A little bit nervous. Oh, we got to pull it all out. See what I'm talking about here? Okay. It is a lot of skirt. It looks a little floofy right now. If I sewed a poodle on it, we would all know what it was. Now you really want to have crisp edges. It's kind of strange to make it double thickness. But I had already pinned the fabric where I wanted to cut it when I realized that there were two thicknesses of it, and I was like, I don't want to have to remeasure and repin. Let's just go ahead and do it this way. So I did. I'm going to try to pick these corners out, but you have to do that gingerly with this kind of fabric too, because it will pick and not look great. Okay. But anyway, I think you can get a beginning of an idea. And if there's any expert seamstresses out there, you should go watch something else. Okay. So here's our little skirt. Again, and then this will be her skirt. And I'll have them, I'll probably have it overlap a good bit in the back. But you do want to have a skirt that's going to spread out over the top of your tree. I think that might be kind of neat. I could even have a cardboard piece underneath that would help it stand out, but it seems pretty stiff on its own, and I think doubling it really did that. And the fit of the waist is not bad. I think what I want to do is make a separate bodice and have the skirt fit over the bodice. I will probably attach some of that trim that we were talking about, the rhinestones, around the edge of this skirt at the top after I get it all ironed and straightened. And then the rhinestones will be on the outside, the bottles will be on the inside. I'll have the skirt so that you want to unsnap your skirt. I'll have the skirt so that you can unsnap it and take it off, and then maybe slide the bodice off from the front. It'll have a snap on the back, and you can slide it off and wash it if you want to. It depends on. Okay, so well, that is the project so far. I will keep you posted on my progress. I need to. The skirt is easier than the bodice. The bodice is going to have to be fitted, and I have to really make allowance for. I wonder if I had a poofy bodice, if that would be better for getting on and off the arms. This could be tricky, folks. This could be very tricky. All right. And I've committed myself now because her dress is off, so I must do something. So we're back with Angela, the angel. And in order to make her bodice, I knew I would need a front piece and a back piece. The front piece, honestly, is the easiest because it's not going to have a seam or anything in it. And I thought it would be easier to cut a small piece of fabric to work with instead of having this, yard of fabric all over my desk, because this is a small workspace for doing this project. So I cut out a piece that I knew would be more than enough for her bodice. And then I took, with my tape measure, I took some careful measurements of her bodice. And when I put it on her, kind of slip it under one arm. Oh, you can see I did super glue her arms in place. So they're stationary and not going anywhere. But you slip that underneath the arms. I wanted the arms to be plenty big enough so I could slip them off of her body. And then I'll probably put some of that edging around the neck. I don't know what I'm going to around the neck. Anyway, so that bodice is looking pretty good. Okay, Angela, you go take a nap. . Good morning, YouTube friends. We are back in the studio this morning with our little angel, Angela. Boy, she doesn't look much like an angel right now. Maybe that's how we all are. Kind of a little fallen angel, but we're working on Angela. And yesterday, after I left you, the job I was working on then was removing all of this rhinestone trim from the bias tape that it was attached to when it was sold. It's about a yard of this, and we're going to be putting that on my hand, I think, at the very last stages of this dress. But yesterday I started on the bodice. So here's the bodice. Now it looks pretty simple, and it is, but I find miniature sewing and doll sewing very challenging. But what I want, and I'm actually doing this for the first time on camera, I want a bodice that can be slipped on because her arms are no longer mobile and they have to stay down. So I need a bodice that can be slipped on like that. That doesn't look too bad, actually. I've left plenty of extra room on this trim at the top, which will be covered up. I'm going to put some of this rhinestone trim to cover up the stitching on that edging that is not great, but that's gonna look, I think that'll look pretty. Pardon on my incense smoke. It does smell so good. Oh, I should show you. Actually, I'll have a link in the description. Adam and I, we love to go to Asian market stores because they have such great spices and foods that we like. And then sometimes they'll have incense sticks for sale. But this is one he ordered online. We often get him incense sticks. And this is amber sandal, so it's kind of amber sandalwood. I love sandalwood smell. I have quite a selection of incense, but that's what we're burning today. So the bodice. Here's the bodice. I've got lots of extra trim so I can finish this up later. This meets well in the back and has, I'll probably put the snap right there where the trim is. I'll attach it at the bottom. Maybe not. I want to be able to get it off. I better not. Not sure what I'm going to do about that. Don't know that Mary will care much. I could put a line of very thin Velcro down the back. That's an idea. Yeah. And then the skirt, which I'm pondering if I want to put some elastic around the top, around the waistband. Then the skirt will go like this. Now I am going to put sleeves on her. Don't worry, she's not a summertime angel. She's a Christmas angel. And the sleeves, of course, are really the trickiest part because, again, her arms have to slide into them. And so I wanted to make the sleeves separately, and then I'm going to hand sew them on. I'm not going to try to fiddle with that on my cranky old sewing machine because it is a pretty cranky machine. It is not... I'm trying to think if you can compare my sewing machine, all the sewing machines in the world, to dancers. Some of them are light-footed ballerinas, and some of them are clunky 300-pound men on the dance floor. That's my sewing machine. Okay. Anyway, so here are the sleeves. There's one sleeve and two sleeves. There, one is a little bigger than the other, I'm sorry to say, just a teeny bit, but I don't think anybody will notice. And I made them pointy on the end, hoping they'll go all the way up. Come on, go up, 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 up. I will attach them to the bodice, and then when I put the bodice on, they will go up. Anyway, so little white sleeves, little white bodice. I still have some work to do. Then I got to do her hair, and I need to do a band for her head and put a waistband on and put the rhinestones around the bottom. There's a lot of work yet to be done, but we're on our way. Okay, Angela, are you ready for the rest of your adventure? Progress with Angela and her dress, the Angel Angela. I did get the seam finished on the edge of the skirt, and I got this lovely rhinestone trim sewed around the waistband. And what I'm going to do with this is a really big skirt, and I'm going to make sure that I attach it with a snap at the waist, and then I'm going to let the rest of it fall. It's going to overlap quite a bit, but this will allow it to kind of self-correct for size. I thought about ironing the edge, finishing the edge, putting a seam along the edge, but I kind of like the cloud-like look. It just has a poofy look, and it stands out really well on its own. So we're going to see, we'll see what Mary thinks about it. As far as the bodice, okay, so I got the sleeves attached very gingerly. I slipped them into her hands and very carefully pulled them up her body and realized, oh, this is a snug fit. It's not going to fit around the neck very well. It'll be more like a boat neck, which is okay. Try to make sure the hands are not catching. And I still realized, I think it's going to work, but it's awful snug. It's pretty snug across her tummy. The sleeves don't look bad. I can live with the boat neck, especially if I put a trim of rhinestones right across there. I think that'll look pretty. But my problem was that it didn't meet in the back. And it was just too small in the back. I wouldn't be able to snap it or anything. So what I ended up doing, let me get her hair out of the way, is I went back and I put another panel right here in the middle. You can see how these two, this edge and this edge, were not going to meet. And so I had to put another panel. I was really glad that I left some of this trim along the neck edge. I had extra that I left. You never know when something's going to come in handy. This will all be on the back of the tree, but now I've got enough to do a snap or something, and I can actually use this trim edge to make a snap connection at the top. I had to go hunting for snaps. So all that to say, I'm sorry, I'll tell you about snaps in a second. But I think the bodice is going to look okay, and I think that the skirt is going to look pretty around it. I might even put elastic around that skirt edge. She's got plenty of space on her skirt. That's good. So you can kind of get a feel for what she's going to look like. I think that'll be pretty. And she'll have a little white band around her head with the rhinestones there too. She's still not all the way together yet. I did have to go hunting for my snaps, and I finally found some. These are so old. Look at those snaps. Oh my goodness, that's the oldest card. Oh, sorry, it's upside down. Visor brand. Rust proof. Wonder if snaps, when they're like 50 years old and they've been sitting in your house in your sewing machine cabinet, are they still rust proof? And then there's this set. I'll probably use these tiny silver ones over here. I think that'll work fine. I think I'll only need 2 or maybe 3 to secure it on there. And that would make the thing easy to take off if Mary ever needs to take it off. I might actually have to do that. No, I think the headband on her head will be snug and stay on. Okay. Oh, there's my eyeballs. Thank you so much for sticking with me on this project. We're getting close to the end. See you in a minute. Well, here's Angela the Angel so far. Look at all of the clutter on my desk from doing this project. There she is. I think the boat neck looks pretty nice. I think the waist looks okay. I love how the skirt stands out. I just can't decide if I want to change anything about that. She's up on her little post. I do have a bit of extra skirt in the back that I'm going to have to figure out a way to tuck in. It's a little bigger than I needed. The back is wonky. It really is. I'm hoping that Mary doesn't mind, since that'll be on the back of the tree. Maybe I could make some kind of a gauzy veil-y thing in the back that would cover up the back. Well, the next thing I have to work on is her hair and her little band around her head. All right, say bye-bye, Angela. Well, I've been working on Angela's hair. There's no way I can get rid of the bald in the front with the hair she has. I'll just swoop this on a nice big comb over and tuck it around. And then some of the other wispy stuff on this side I brought over and tucked around. a lot of that will be concealed in that band I'm talking about. And I used some school glue and some extra strong craft glue to try to secure that. Hopefully that'll work. But she really does need a little more hair so she can be as pretty as she can be. So I'm working on felting her some new hair. And this is how you felt. This is a felting needle. And I have a nice felting pad, thankfully, so I don't poke any body parts. And this is some of my roving. And you can just tuck it around. Now I am worse than a beginning felter. I really am. However, I think that as long as something does felt, it's pretty forgiving. This is just a little teeny bit of roving, so if I mess it up, it's no big deal. I do want the roving to stay in place. I don't want any more wispy hair. Of course, that kind of attaches it to the pad underneath, so you have to lift it up, flip it over, and jab it some more. And because I'm holding the camera, I can't hold the roving. So I'll keep on doing this for a while, and then we'll see what it looks like on her head. I contemplated braiding it too, but I think that might be going a bit above and beyond the call.